joining us maybe for the first time, the way this operates is I'll moderate for you. Try to keep everybody on mute so the audio stays good. Open up your participant window and your chat window. You can chat with me if you need something. In the participant window, you can raise a hand and give yourself the opportunity to get in the queue. And I basically just run down through the list of raised hand questions, and we'll move through it. So, Coach, I think you can get rolling.
Thank you, Jeremy. Welcome, everybody, and hope everybody stayed safe and healthy during these crazy times. It seems like forever ago that we were on spring break and looked up, and now here we are. And a lot has changed over that time, and a lot hasn't changed. So things are very, very fluid. But we're excited to be back to work. Our guys are back at work. They Thursday and Friday will be near 100%, and this week we get to work with them 20 hours per week. So we get to the strength staff will have them for 8 hours on their workouts. They'll have 6 hours of meetings and 6 hours of walkthroughs. So it'll be really the first time we've had in-person on the field meetings with our players, and that should be fun moving forward. Our number one goal for spring practice was to develop depth. And we just weren't able to do that like everybody else. We've got a young team. We've got a lot of guys coming back, but we also need some depth from the guys that we signed and from guys that redshirted last year. So the fact that we had bowl practice was good and helpful, but the fact that we missed spring practice really hurt us. So it'll be good to get back out there and get to watch some of these young guys run around. And the same thing with Coach Lilly and Coach DeWitt. They're new coaches. That Coach Lilly, being our tight end coach, he hasn't even worked his guys out in person. He hadn't been able to meet with them. Same thing with Coach DeWitt, and even more so, another priority going into spring was our special teams. And Coach DeWitt not only has not been able to meet in person with our special teams guys, he's had some Zoom meetings with them, but he's had to rely on video and also the word of our other coaches about who should be on special teams and why. And we've told the guys, y'all will have to earn that right. So don't worry about depth charts right now, because our special teams coaches really haven't been around you guys. More importantly, and what we've got to do short term is make sure that our players are safe. And we feel like we're doing that. We have asked each player and told each player, if you don't feel comfortable, every time we've met with them, don't play, and you can stay on scholarship. Everybody handles stress differently. Everybody handles a crisis differently. Some people have more anxiety with it. Some people have depression with stuff like this because we got a lot on us. So if that is affecting you at all, don't play. And so far, we haven't had anyone come to us and say they don't want to play. They're looking forward to getting back out there. Same thing with our staff. We've had only half the staff coming to the office. That's people that have to be in the office to do their job. We've told other staff members, if you can do your job from home, do it from home. It's one of the positive things that have come out of all this. We've learned to communicate better virtually. So if you can do your job at home, don't come in. And if you don't want to work this year, you get to keep your job. Just let us know. Just tell us as a player or a staff member, and we'll take care of it. We'll get your duties picked up somewhere else. Even if we have a coach or a staff member during the year that gets sick and can't coach in a ball game, the NCAA has given us permission to replace that person for that week or 2 week period with someone else, like an analyst or someone who couldn't normally coach on the field. So that's something that they've learned from us. But we're also having to learn how to play safely, and that comes from our medical experts. Academics have been good. You never know when you have such a drastic change, and you go into spring break on you're sitting there with your academics as normal, and then you come out of spring break, in fact 2 weeks later, and you're online. And our guys were over a 3.0 with team GPA this spring. They were right at a 3.0 the first session of summer school, and seem to be doing really, really well the second session of summer school. And we will keep our early practice sessions in the fall. The guys all wanted to do that, so we'll still practice from 8 to 10 in the morning for you that are working on your schedules. We felt like that what's happened with the NBA and them creating a bubble is obviously a real positive. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a bubble around our football program. That means that we've got to continue to talk to the guys about wearing a mask, washing your hands, and social distancing. And that's very, very important. In fact, we've got to do that in our country so we can get our kids back to school and so we can play football. But all of us need to work at that, and not just for football, obviously, but for we can't forget our healthcare employees. We can't forget our first responders. We can't forget our essential workers. So let's all do what we're supposed to do to help them, because that's much more important than football. And we're talking about football today, but if we help our country and we help each other, football will take care of itself. And I think that's the most important thing as we look forward here. We had 3 great weeks where we didn't have a positive. And then one weekend, we had some positives. And they were voluntary workouts, but we shut the weight room and quit running together so they could separate and get well and go back and talk to the medical experts about why did we have the positives, and talk to them about what can we do better to make sure that if we have more, we have few, because we're having them all over the country, obviously. But those decisions are all being made by the medical staff moving forward, and we're trusting them with everything we do. So they're telling us how to go back and work, and the contact tracing people are trying to figure out exactly why we had our positives so we can do a better job with that moving forward. Thank goodness that all of our guys had minor to no symptoms, and that they're doing really well, and again, excited about getting back to work. So I expect us to play college football this fall. It'll be determined by medical staffs across the country, and how safe for the players, how safe for the staffs, how safe for the fans. And that's still fluid. Commissioner Swafford said that they will probably have more information for us at the end of the month. And I know you're anxiously waiting information. We are too, and our coaches are, and our players are. Our parents are. Our parents are even asking me, are we going to play, and where can we get tickets, and all those type questions right now that none of us can answer. So I think the real answer is that we've all got to do what we're told to do. We've all got to fight this virus as a whole in our country. And as the virus slows down, we have a better chance to play because everybody will be safer. And I've thought a lot about people across the country. People have lost their lives. They've lost family members. They've lost friends. People have lost jobs. People have lost their place to live. I just cringe at the thought of young people not being able to eat. So all of us have a responsibility to do the things right. And I'm trying to do everything that I'm supposed to do every day. People asked me the other day, would you like wearing that mask? I said, no, I'd rather not wear it. But if it's going to keep not only me safe, but the people that I'm talking to that I care about, I'm going to wear a mask, and I'm going to wear it every time that I'm supposed to wear it. I made a statement the other day, and I've made it numerous times about, I think we need a commissioner of college football. That was not a shot at Todd Berry with the AFCA, because I was the president of the AFCA. The problem with the AFCA right now is they don't give them voting power. The AFCA can suggest, but the coaches don't have a voice there that is a powerful voice to vote and get things done. It wasn't a shot at President Emmert, because President Emmert's in charge of the NCAA and all of its entities. At one point, we had Chuck Ninus in charge of the CFAs, the College Football Association, At that time, we got athletic directors and faculty reps and coaches together, and we started making decisions as one. And right now, we just seem to be disjointed, and we don't have a single voice together. And I would have liked to have seen it where more people were talking about when it's safe to come back as a group, how we're going to run the season, who's going to play, when are they going to play. And that seems to be all over the place a little bit right now. So any questions from anybody? Or Jeremy, anything I missed?
No, I think you're off to a good start. Now we'll roll through the questions again, gang, for those that hopped on late. Pop open your participant window. You should have the opportunity to raise your hand if you want to ask a question, and I'll just move through it. We'll start off with Dan Walken. Dan, go ahead, unmute yourself and fire away.
Hey, Mac.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Doing well, thank you. How concerned are you about players? And you know, they're obviously consuming the news. They understand what's going on. There's got to be some uncertainty with them about, are you going to play? When are you going to play? And all of that. How do you address with them just to sort of keep them mentally, you know, sharp, engaged, and frankly, just focused on what they need to do?
Well, Dan, it's a great question. And what we've tried to do is be very transparent with them and over communicate. So anytime I have any information, I go to our staff immediately, and then I go to our players immediately. And we've tried to even earlier in the process, educate parents. Until we have more information, we can't do that. But we've just tried to tell them we're planning on playing our regular season as of now. That's all we've been told. So do the best job that you can do to prepare like you would normally prepare for us to start on August 6th. Is there a chance that will not happen or will change? Sure it is. And we hope we'll know more by the end of July, but we can only prepare for what we know is there right now. And right now, we have not been told anything different about the season, and we're planning on starting on time. And we've also told them, and I think it's not only important to tell your players that they don't have to play if they don't feel comfortable. It's important that they believe you. It's there's a lot of macho in young people, young men in college football, and their buddy, they don't want their buddy making fun of them. So we have said, now this is real and this is real stuff. And if you are uncomfortable at all or anxious, if you want to miss workouts, if you don't want to play, let's do it. So I think, Dan, more than anything else, we've just been so direct and honest with our players about all the issues that are out there that we want them to come and talk to us. And even if you've got some things you don't think we're doing well, it may be NCAA rules that we're having to follow. But if there's something you're concerned about, talk to us. More than ever before, with all that is going on, I think it's important that we all listen. And we listen to young people because they're wanting a voice right now, and they need a voice, and it's important to hear. I've learned a lot of things in the last 4 months just from listening to players. So that's the most important thing right now to us.
Just one quick follow-up. If you were not able to play this fall, do you anticipate that the players would stay on campus?
Dan, that's way above my pay scale. And again, what I've learned through this is I have a job to do, and I need to stay in my lane. Athletic directors right now have a very difficult job with looking to see what's ahead. Already some issues in the spring. There's president a very difficult job. People discussing all over the country, should our kids go back to school or not? And do you have in-class or online? And I got grandkids that affects. So right now, what I'm trying to do is get our team ready to play. And that's it. I really am trying to go day to day with them and trying to talk to them about doing the same. Let's worry about today and let's get it fixed, because there's so much fluid activity with the virus and therefore our lives that are unanswered. I said the other day, The only thing that is assured is we're not assured of anything right now. And those are the things that I think we've got to be able to do, is manage day to day, and then let people who are in charge of whatever they're in charge of get us answers for the other stuff. We know we're trying to get Shields to play football, and that'll help. But the medical experts are the ones that are going to tell us how we practice, when we practice, if we can play. I think they will be determining whether guys go to school or not. People have asked me about, what about the spring? Could you play in the spring? I'm not going there because I'm planning on playing in the fall. And I can't get to spring yet because if I get to spring with all the thoughts that happen in the spring, I think it'll dilute some of my thought process as I'm preparing for the fall.
Good, Dan. All right, we'll move on. Andrew Jones, you're up. Go
Hey,
ahead.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Over the last couple of weeks, when a lot of the Big Ten came out with its announcement, it's going to play conference-only games, there have been a variety of reports about all kinds of scenarios. The one question I'm asked several times a day by our readers is, if you could play football in your own conference, how come you can't play football against teams from other conferences? What's been explained to you about the thinking behind that, and what is your understanding of why it's okay to play this team and not okay to play that team, given what the virus is about?
Well, Andrew, I'll give what I was told early, because I asked the same question. And each conference, the way I understand it, will come out with a medical protocol. And that medical protocol will be adhered by the teams in your league. And then you're not going to be allowed to play teams from outside of your conference unless they can go by the medical protocol to make sure that everybody's safe. That's the only thing that I've been told about conference or non-conference games. I haven't been told anything else.
As a follow-up, have you and the other ACC head coaches been asked for any input along the way here in the last few weeks?
We have met as head coaches each week for about, I'd say 7, 8, maybe 10 weeks. And we've gone over all the different scenarios, and Dave Clausen is the head of our group this year, and then he gives the information to the athletics directors. So they have asked for our input, and we've given a lot of input, understanding that we're not decision makers.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Dave's done a really good job with chairing those meetings too.
Thanks, Andrew. Head over to Dennis Dodd. Dennis, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Unmuting. Yeah, Mac, thanks once again for doing this. I'm looking at your schedule. It looks like your schedule's intact. I wonder if you had any thoughts about, playing a conference games only, or conference +1, or playing a 12-game schedule versus, the Pac-12 and Big Ten that are playing conference only, how that might look and work.
Dennis, I like all of us, I've sat and had my opinions and thought about what this would look like, and really, I've got no input. It's I told Bubba I want them. My goal would be for the medical staffs to make it safe for all of us, not just the players, but the coaches, the fans, you guys, make it safe for everybody. And if we can figure that out, we need to play. And the guys want to play. I've asked them, and they want to play. Some need to play. They got the NFL out there. They've asked me questions about what happens if we don't play. Do I get a redshirt year? What does that mean for my eligibility? Or do you keep all the seniors next year and let them play again like we did in the spring with some of the Olympic sports? And then do I get to come back another year? So there's so many questions that I've tried to stay again in my lane and not worry about anything except preparing for the schedule that I know we've got. You hear the 8+1, you hear the 10+1. I don't have any idea what I'm doing except with scheduling, except I'm going to play whatever Bubba tells me to play, and John Swafford tells me to play. And I want to play all the games if it's safe. And so that's been my focus. My focus is you've got our schedule. I've got our schedule. Our coaches have worked for the last 4 or 5 months on those games. That's all we've talked about. That's all we focused on. And until we hear something different, that's where we're headed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis. We're off to Jared. Jared, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. And when it comes to recruiting, I know there's no real substitute for a firsthand look at a lot of your prospects, but given that a couple of states have already shifted from fall to spring in terms of high school football, if it's played at all, I'm wondering how much more reliant you and your staff becomes on, I guess, just their personal resume reels and sites like Huddle to evaluate potential prospects.
Jarrett, that's another great point. We're in good shape with our 21 recruiting. So we missed our camps in the summer, which all universities did, and that's a vital place to get to know people better, build relationships. The families weren't able to visit this spring. So again, you miss those relationships. We're fortunate that we're in a footprint where most of our guys come from DC to Atlanta. They come to games as juniors. They're around us a lot. We recruit heavily in state. So we were able to know all the families for the 21 recruits. And I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to do well. We've lost some guys that said, Coach, I can't wait. And I didn't get to come and see you all, and we didn't get to come to campus. So I feel like I need to commit to the one school I went to visit. I understand that completely. Where it will be different are the 22 and the 23 classes, because hopefully by spring we'll be able to get back to some normalcy and have camps again. But the 22 class, if we don't get to see them play this fall, that evaluation will just be slower, because you'll be getting all your evaluation on video, but there's nothing like seeing a young guy play basketball or seeing him play football, seeing him practice and seeing him in person and get him to know him. And the hardest thing right now, you're looking at a video and a transcript to make a decision on what his body type is like, what his family's like. Do you like him? Does he like you? So it's not the best right now for any of us or the young student athletes. You also have to rely heavily on the high school coach, and we're lucky that we've got so many guys that have recruited in our state. They know our coaches really well, so they can trust the high school coaches. But that's going to be one of the real different things about trying to evaluate the 22 class.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Greg Barnes, you're up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Mac, with regard to the positive tests, could you walk us through, when a player he tests positive, what takes place from that point forward in terms of quarantine and all those kind of things?
Greg, I'll repeat what our trainers and doctors have told me, because, again, I don't get involved in any of this. What happens when you get a positive is you're quarantined for 14 days from either the time you had the positive test or when you got symptoms. And symptoms can be as much as a headache, or you can't taste your food as well, or can't smell as well, or and then you stay quarantined for 10 days with a positive, or until you're out of your symptoms from 10 days. And then you go have a heart and respiratory checkup to make sure that your heart's still in good shape because of what they've learned from this virus. And then they turn you loose. And you've also got contacts. And if someone was inside of 6 feet without a mask, the contact tracers ask them, were you close in person in your dorm room or in your apartment with this other player? And if you say yes, then you've got a 14-day quarantine, because they're not sure that you don't have the virus. and you get tested at that time. So it's not only the positives that get quarantined, it's the contacts of those positives that could possibly get the virus that are quarantined as well.
And given the efforts that your staff made to keep everybody in a bubble, keep everybody socially distanced, was that a little bit of a wake-up call in terms of the severity of how quickly this can spread for the program?
Yes, and that, we're talking to people all over the country, Greg, and it's everywhere. And it just goes from nothing to fast. And that's why we closed the weight room down, and I got people out of the office and just said, let's take a deep breath here, and let's let our medical people look at this more closely and determine exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it, and make sure that we take a look at everybody's safety as well. And at that time, we were doing voluntary workouts. So it's not like you shut down voluntary workouts, but we did shut down the weight room, and we didn't run them in groups. And the ones that could worked out on their own. And I feel really, really good about our guys getting back to work this week and last Thursdays when they started, and that they will be ready to practice when we start on August 6th. So I think it's inevitable that you're going to have some, and you got to learn from them. And all of us will be more cautious now, in my opinion, than we were before. But we're constantly pushing mask, hand washing, social distancing. We're actually getting a stick for our coaches. And one of the things that we will learn in walkthroughs, it's a 6-foot stick. And we're going to have to stand that far apart during practice. And we're having to learn to practice differently, and being led by the medical staffs. And that's what we'll be learning this weekend with one of the major things with the walkthroughs is how do we practice to make sure we stay safe.
Thanks, Mac.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. Andrea Adelson, you're up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Mac, thanks for doing this. Two-part question. I guess the first part is, what are you expecting in terms of the decision the presidents are going to make next week? Is it going to be the schedule, or is it going to be whether to push the start date back?
Andrea, I have no clue. I think that the athletics directors, the commissioner, and the presidents are looking at all the options and to see what's best. And everybody would love to play your full schedule. I mean, that's what everybody would like, because then there's no change. But we're looking at all the options as coaches, and that's what the presidents and the athletics directors will end up determining. Is how far do you travel? How safe is it to travel? How many people are going to be in the stands if we play? I mean, there's a lot of different things that are involved. Not just do we play a conference or non-conference schedule. And I have full trust in the people in that room to make the right decisions. And I'm anxious, like you all are, and like the players, to and our staff. Our staff asked me every day, "You heard anything?" And I said, "No, I'll tell you when I do, but I haven't heard anything."
The second part to that is, do you feel like it's hard to even make a decision at this point because there hasn't even been physical practice, physical contact yet, and we don't even know what that is going to look like or what that's going to do for possible infection?
Andrea, again, that's way above me. Thank goodness our medical people have, they're advising us nationally about our children, about our grandchildren, about our day-to-day lives. We're lucky that baseball's starting up. We're lucky that basketball's playing, soccer's playing, golf's playing. And I'm sure that our medical experts are learning from each one of these situations. And because of that will help us because we've still got some time, even before we start on August 6th, that we could learn a lot of different things. I was excited to hear that we're ordering shields, because that makes some sense to me, that the shield will cover your face. I'm excited that they're going to extend the boundaries, the coach's box on the sideline, and we're going to have to learn how to separate when an offensive line comes off. You're going to have to separate them to talk to them. We're talking about not doing many in-person meetings. Our in-person meeting or inside, our in-person meeting would be in our indoor area, which has got 8 big doors that you can open up and big fans in them. And we can do video on the Jumbotron, or doing some of our video work right now until we learn more. It's still on Zoom because you can do that. And we've learned to do that. So we're trying right now to learn how to move forward, to learn how to practice and meet better, and at the same time keep a very low risk. And the fact that they say that well, we're actually working out now with mask. They're lifting weights with mask, and that's something we didn't do before. They're running outside, which they feel like safe, but they'll wear their mask till they get to the run and then pull their mask down to run. So we're really working hard to make sure that everybody's safe, but we're still getting the ability to get our work done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. David Hale, you're up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Mac, I was just curious, you talked about the NBA bubble and the hopeful success that comes from that, and also kind of investigating where some of the positives came from within your program. I'm curious what kind of information or feedback you've gotten on making sure there is not holes in that bubble as you guys move forward.
David, that's where I'm going to lean on the medical people. They're continuing to look at it and study it. They feel good about what we were doing with workouts. So they've gone back and interviewed every player that was a contact and every player that was had a positive. So I think they will come up with more information moving forward, but we really haven't gotten answers back yet. And we're again, they're determining our schedule.
And you had also, I'm sorry, you also mentioned, that guys can be a little bit on the macho side here. When you're going through contact tracing after a positive result, how are you guys ensuring that, when you say, hey, were you within 6 feet of a guy who tested positive, that they're not saying no, just to ensure that they're not quarantined?
One thing that we're all learning is you've got to trust each other, and that's it. And I think from what I can tell, the information I've gotten back, they feel like our players have been really, really honest, and we've asked them to for not only their health but those around them. If you've got a positive and you have no symptoms, you can still spread the disease or the virus, the way I understand it. So you've got to be really, really careful, and that's why we're cautious about asking too many questions to the contact tracing people. We never ask names because we want them to be able to feel comfortable and be honest. And if somebody got outside the bubble and made a poor decision, I don't want to know who that is right now, because if I go yell at them, then they're less likely, or somebody else is less likely to be honest with the tracing people. And what we need is we need honesty and transparency across the board with our team and our staff. And it's not an awful thing if you get a positive. We're seeing prominent people get positives all over the world. But let's figure out how it happened. Try to make sure it doesn't happen again, and that you're not part of the spread.
Thanks, Mac. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
All right, on to Todd Gibson. Todd, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Mac, I've talked to a lot of high school coaches, and they're adamant that we should play this season, and some of them have been called selfish for that. As a coach, why is it so important to play football, to play this season?
Todd, I don't think they're selfish. I'm a coach, so I'll take up for coaches, obviously, but they want to play because their kids want to play. And so many of the high school kids are trying to get college scholarships. You may be involved with a team that you feel like it's finally your state championship run if you're a player. And even the decisions that if they did move back to spring, would I if I was an early enrollee and planning on going to the university early, would I skip that now and stay and play for my team? So high school coaches like myself and so many college coaches across the country are just waiting because we will get our information from other people. And one of the problems we have as coaches is we love control. And right now we've got responsibility without control. And that's a very difficult thing for coaches. It's I like answers. I like to give people answers. I like for our staff to know what's going on. We had a schedule for our families that was out there a year in advance, so they knew every weekend where they would be when they had off. We don't know what we're doing next Monday, so it's just different right now. And I think it's the other thing is there's so much frustration right now in our country because people aren't allowed to do what they want to do. And like I said, some people are losing businesses, some people can't eat, some people are losing friends and family, some people are losing where they live. I mean, it's just, it's a very, very difficult time. And because of that, there's so much pressure on everybody that I also think that we're more vocal, we have more frustration, and we say it publicly. And in some cases, it's just getting rid of some frustration as well. But I've talked to a lot of our high school coaches. We had great clinics with them this spring because we had a clinic with one of our coaches and our high school coaches in the state every week until we went through 11 weeks of it. And it was very, very productive. But like us, they've got a lot of parents and a lot of kids asking them, are we going back to school? Are we going to play? When can we start practice? Recruits, commits asking me, Coach, if I don't play, do we lose our scholarship? Or so unanswered questions for all of us is very, very difficult, Todd. And that's what I think is wearing on everybody till we get some answers.
Thanks, Mac.
Thank you.
JB, we're coming to you. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Coach, JB here. As always, thank you so much for taking out time for us. My question, I want to go back to your revelation of the ACC coaches getting together weekly for the past 10 weeks. Can you go back to that first week where you guys had that first kind of teleconference or whatnot with all the coaches to where you guys are at right now, getting closer and closer to when the season is supposed to begin? Do you feel like the anxiety of whether or not we're going to have a college football season is kind of getting to that level of maybe desperation or whatever? Like we're just doing anything and everything we can to make sure we have a college football season. Are we getting close to that danger zone right there?
JB, thanks for being on it. It's funny that we found out by meeting once a week for 7 to 10 weeks that we actually like each other. And we're not out there fighting and recruiting all the time right now. So we've had some fun together, and Dave Clausen, as I said, has done a great job of chairing those meetings. But it's been funny, and coaches are picking at each other. And saying, in fact, one of them said the other day, they said, "You want to have this meeting again next week?" And said, "Yeah, I'd kind of miss it. I thought I didn't like 2 or 3 of you, and I actually like you." So we're finding out that we have a lot more in common than we think. And I've been really, really proud of the coaches in the ACC in these meetings. They're 1 to 2 hour Zoom meetings. And a lot of head coaches all of us run our own meetings, so we've got a bunch of opinions. But the people have really been able to honor other differences and talk about what might be best for Syracuse and what might be best for Miami, since they're on the opposite ends of where we are. So we've talked about what's best for college football instead of what's best for us and what's best for the ACC. So I've really been pleased, and there has not been panic. I think all of us, and I can't speak for them, but just in listening, everybody would love to play. But nobody wants to play if it's not safe. Nobody. I mean, that's just that's 100%. And we don't know how to determine whether it's safe or not. We've got to get our information from other people. And because it's so fluid, the medical people are continuing to look at what's safe and what's best and what can we do to make this work. So you've got athletic directors on hold, you got presidents on hold, you got everybody on hold, just waiting to you all are on hold. Coaches and kids are on hold until we get more information from those that are giving us the information. I think that there's really more excitement that as we're nearing the season, the possibility of us playing grows, and that's exciting for the coaches and therefore the players. And then when Commissioner Swafford says the end of July, we'll have some more answers. And the SEC Commissioner, Greg Sankey, says we'll have more answers at the end of July. I think then they must feel like they're making progress toward decisions. And we all know all those options that are on the table. And I'm just glad that we've got people that are smart enough to make those decisions for us, because I would not be able to make the decision because I don't have enough of the information.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, JB. Sammy, you're up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, Mac, this is kind of off the main topic here, but you and your staff have always been known as great recruiters. I mean, what makes a good recruiter, and how heavily does that ability weigh as you form a staff as opposed to coaching abilities?
Yeah, Sammy, I hope you're doing well. Like a lot of people on this call, you and I go way back, so I don't want to say how far we go back, but I think some of the great how far we go back. Sammy, I've always felt like, number one, it's about your product first. And we've got a great product in the state of North Carolina. We've got great academics. Chapel Hill's a wonderful college town. You've got your small campus, but you're close enough to Durham and Raleigh that you've got some city stuff if you like it or need it as well. It's very difficult to get in. And not everybody fits here. So you have to do a great job of deciding who fits at your place and who loves the place. And especially now with the transfer portal like it is, our coaches are constantly asking me, how do you keep guys from transferring? I said, bring the right guys in and treat them right. Bring guys in that want to be here. And that'll minimize your transfers for sure. And then secondly, and maybe most importantly, is get a staff that fits your place. Get a staff that understands who needs to be on your campus, and get a staff that's recruited your state before or your footprint, because our recruiting footprint is from that DC to Atlanta. But I didn't want to hire coaches to recruit in state that didn't know how to get to Wilmington or didn't know how to get to Charlotte. And then you've got just Stacy Searles worked at Georgia, and he worked at App State. You've got Robert Gillespie and Tommy Thigpen. Tommy's been here 4 times, but he also coached at Tennessee and recruited Georgia. You've got Lonnie Galloway, who's recruited this state 15 years. You got Jay Bateman's recruited this state 15 years. Dre Bly, from 757, as he calls it, to Charlotte. Nobody's been around more and more visible than Dre. So when you start looking at the guys that we've got, and we just hired Coach Lilly. A big part of when I hire someone is recruiting. And Coach Lilly was the recruiting coordinator at Florida State. And then he coached at Georgia for Mark Richt for a long time. He's from the state of North Carolina, was a high school football coach here. So a huge part of hiring John Lilly was his recruiting ties in North Carolina, in Georgia, and in Florida. And he's also an excellent coach. And then you start looking at Coach DeWitt. He actually coached with Jay Bateman at Army. So sometimes he didn't have as many ties here. He has them in South Florida because he coached at FIU and he coached at Central Florida. So his recruiting ties weren't as important as his defensive ties to Jay, as well as he's a great special teams coach. But a huge part of putting your staff together is putting a staff together that can recruit, and not just a good recruiter, but can recruit your state and your footprint.
Yeah, I guess just following up, as I recall before when you were here, Sally was really into the recruiting scene. Has she maintained that interest in recruiting as well now?
She has. When we quit coaching at Texas, Sally was really concerned that we would lose touch with our players. And just the opposite happened with Facebook and Twitter and phone calls and text messages. And they were more involved with us because we weren't as around as much. So they were reaching out to us all the time. And one of the exciting things for her was to have a team again and get to know all of our current players, which we've really missed. It's been the hardest thing since spring break, is we haven't been able to be around the players. We see them a lot on you start looking at virtual with Zoom and talk to them on Zoom, but it's just different. And we've had to talk to them about Zoom and sit up, pay attention, be on time. I mean, the meetings are different. So I can't wait to get to be around them more like that. But Sally loves getting to know the recruits. And Sam, she's been valuable to me in recruiting because she can sit there and evaluate a family and a player and say, not sure if they fit here or not, and here are the reasons why. Or she'll say, you're not going to get him. You didn't listen. Said if you listen, Mom said, I wish you were closer. That means he's not coming because you're too far away. So she's been really valuable to us in recruiting.
Thanks, Mac.
Thanks, Sam.
All right, Nicole. Oops, sorry, I think I muted you. My bad.
Okay, I think I unmuted again.
Yeah, you're good.
Mac, thanks for doing this, by the way. I just have two questions. The first one is, as a coach who's done this a long time, how much of like lead time do you feel you would need to know when your first game is? Like what length of time and amount of practices and prep do you feel you would need to have?
Nicole, it's a great question. And that's a lot of the conversation we've had in our head coaches meeting. And I think everybody came up with, we could survive with 4, but we'd like to have 6. And a 6-week reentry would be perfect for us. But 4 would be okay. When I played, which was quite a while ago, we actually just had a workout in the summer, and they'd send you a sheet and say, we'll see you when school starts or when practice starts. And you had to be in shape on your own. And I've been really impressed by our players, and I'm sure other coaches would say the same thing, that these guys worked so hard when they were away from us, even if they didn't have a weight room, because so many weight rooms were shut down. A lot of people have trainers now, but I saw guys doing push-ups with book bags on their back and jogging with sand in a book bag, and all different types of really creative stuff to get themselves in shape. And kids work out year round now. So I really feel like that I think the medical folks will give us that amount of time to get our teams ready to go. And in fact, you don't want to, I worry sometime that we work them so hard year round that we wear them out. So some of this has been a good break for them as well. But I'm not concerned about our team being in shape or ready to go when we get started.
And then this other question is, talked about bubbles and the environments of that these players are in. What's your level of concern about the regular student body coming back to campus? Because you can control what you can control in football practices and your facilities, but then they walk outside.
Yeah, it's the biggest unknown to me, really, is that when we have 19,000 students show up in early August as we're practicing, our guys are just going to have to do the things they're supposed to do, and that's we've kind of told them to, if you want to play, you're going to have to wear your mask, and you're going to have to stay 6 feet apart. And when the students come back, it's going to be much more difficult than it is now. And those are decisions you've got to make. And what Greg was talking about earlier, Nicole, if you have a positive and it's 10 to 14 days, then you have to have your heart checkup, you could miss 2 to 3 games very easily. So the players just have to determine how important is it going to be to stay in that bubble? How important is it going to be to not go out with buddies that aren't in the bubble? And that's a very difficult thing for all of us to do, much less college students. So it's real. It's out there. We're talking about it daily because we had some positives. They're probably listening a little bit better now than they were when we had 3 weeks of nothing. It was all so good that they probably, some felt like, we're fine. This is good. And we will have those conversations, obviously, before they come back. But that's a concern for all of us.
Good, Nicole. Looks like our last one be Kiera. Kiera, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good, Kiera.
I just have a quick question. We hadn't really spoken to you earlier in the month when everything was, race related and the conversations were happening. I spoke with a former player of yours, and he just said Coach Mack Brown is one for the culture. He understands us. He wants to get to know us. He's very adamant about understanding who we are. Through your college coaching career, how important was it for you to understand your players and making sure that you identify the things that they go through, and making sure that you're an ally for them in all scenarios?
Oh, that's another great question, Kiera. And I was lucky that I was raised by a father who coached and a grandfather who coached. And so I was all about players and high school coaches early in my life. And then I've grown and learned, and what's happened over the last few months has made me even more aware, because what I learned was that we've always listened to players. We've always wanted to understand who they were. A lot of times I've gotten criticism for being too much of a player's coach and being their buddies, and that's not the case. We're very disciplined, but at the same time, we're all ears, and we want to listen, we want to learn. What I've learned is that the environment in our dressing room has been wonderful. The environment on our team is great, and we have fun together, and we don't have issues. We talk about being fair to everybody, and if you don't think we're being fair, come and ask us, because you need to, maybe you didn't hear what we said properly. I want you to understand what we said. You heard what you heard. It's not what I said. So we want to be fair. And the other thing is I've learned in my life, I want to be consistent. Every time I get on here with you guys, I want to be the same that I was the last time I was on here. My job is to give you information that I have. And that's the same way with the players. And then we always want to do what we know is the right thing to do. And those are 3 principles that we have that we go by with all of our players. And I've said, if there's anything on your mind, come and ask me. I may not can answer it, but I can get somebody who can. And that's very, very important to me. And what I've learned in the last month or so, and I can't wait next time we have an in-person meeting, some of the players have talked about, could we stand up and talk about racism and talk about Black Lives Matter, and that'd be great. So we're going to have a town hall meeting where everybody that's got something on their mind can stand up and say it. And I don't want to do that on Zoom, because some of the passion and the emotion is lost in a Zoom meeting. And the other thing I've learned, that my responsibility goes beyond our team and our team in the little bubble environment that we have, even in our dressing room. If I've said this many times, if the United States and the world would handle diversity and race and equality and fairness like our dressing room, we'd have a wonderful world. And I don't know why it can't be that way, and our goal should be that it gets that way. But when our guys leave our bubble, if they feel like there's racism anywhere, whether it's on campus, in town, in their lives, anywhere, then I'm responsible for trying to help change that. And that's what our conversations with them have been like over the last 3 or 4 months. If you've got something that really bothers you, then tell me. and I'll talk to you about it. We'll see if we can change it. But let's make sure that the change is what's best for you and what's best for our country. And it's change that will help you 5 years from now and help you 10 years from now, or help your children. And let's just don't let it lay there if it's something that we need to fix.
Perfect. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, gang, we're at 56 minutes. We've got to head out. We've got something at 11 we got to get done. So I want to thank you all for being here as usual. Ross, you didn't even ask a question about